Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I wanted to do my Assassin preview card, or Assassin spoiler card review. I have done the Ninja cards and now the Ranger cards, and now I wanted to kind of get into the Assassin cards and kind of get my thoughts on them, both from like a Yuziri and Arachne perspective. I'll try go back and forth, and just get my overall thoughts. First off, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you end up liking this type of content, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to. If not, it's totally fine. I even appreciate just the click and checking out the video. Join the Discord down below if you would like to be a part of a really good Flesh and Blood community. We have a really active community right now. If you're wanting to play any of the heroes and outsiders, highly suggest join the community. Super active right now. And if you're a long-standing supporter of the channel and you want to support in a different way, I just started a Patreon where I have 2 tiers that will get you benefits anywhere from getting a special role in the Discord and access to Patreon-only channels to up to, if you go to tier 2, you'll be able to see my videos even a day early or the night before they come out, just to see the content a little bit earlier. But yeah, we'll get right into it. So the Assassin cards are very interesting, and there's a lot of like preamble, I think, to like future sets, but there's also stuff that's like useful right now. So first thing I'll talk about is this unknown section. Some people are thinking that this is going to be the fabled. It's going to be really interesting to see if it is the fabled. I don't know if it's going to be assassin or not. People are saying because it's under assassin, it's going to be an assassin fabled. I don't think that's necessarily what it means. I think they just put it as the first card in the entire set, so you don't know. So I wouldn't read too much in this personally. I mean, it's fun to like guess and look at, but overall, I won't put too much into it. So get into it. We technically have 2 new heroes. We have one brand new hero and then another version of an old hero at Blitz. So we have Yuziri here. Yuziri is once per turn has once per turn attack reaction. Banish a card from your hand face down. Turn the card banished this way face up. If it's an attack action card with cost 2 or less, put target attack action card with stealth from the active chain link on the bottom of its owner's deck. Then put the banished card onto the active chain link as the attacking card. So really interesting text. Really interested to see where she goes. Right now, I think she's okay. I just think she's kind of fair. She's like a good, fair hero. I am really interested to see how people kind of like break her as far as, the highest maximum value of like what she can do. I will say that the mind games portion of her is going to be really, really good. But it's going to be interesting to see how you can give her the most value possible, because since I know that you're going to banish and then play a card 2 or less, it kind of like helps me know if you know what's in a typical Yuziri deck, unless someone's playing some crazy spice. Once the like Yuziri meta gets settled, like like her power cards are Shakedown, Command and Conquer, Death Touch, cards like that mainly that can erase face, cards that can really put a lot of pressure on the opponent in that way. So once you figure that out and you know what's left in her deck, you can kind of get an idea of like when or when not to block. However, if you start adding stuff like Shred in there and you start adding like a couple of the go again assassin ninja cards like Hurl, like I think she could get some really interesting cards and really interesting like play lines to like really throw off her opponent. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how people value her as we're moving forward. Then we have Arachne. They just changed his ability, or their ability at Blitz, which is Arachne Solitary Confinement, which is your first attack with stealth each turn gains go again. I actually think this Arachne is going to be pretty good in Blitz. To be able to play like a 3-power stealth attack and then like a Plunder the Poor or 3-power and to leave no witnesses or something like that, like you're basically telling your opponent like, it's similar to Yuziri where it's like, are you going to block this first 3-power attack? Because I could be coming in with something more devastating next turn. This Arachne could be very much like a block with 2 cards, attack with 2 cards type hero, and could get a lot of value, especially off like forcing blocks due to discard effects from the contract cards. Then we have the Spider Bite reprint, pretty standard here. We have Nerve Scalpel at left and right. It's a majestic. So basically you have 3 more types of daggers. Spider's Bite, all of them are pay 2. Go again for one attack power with piercing 1. Spider Bite, if it hits, the next attack action you defend with gets -1. Nerve Scalpel is when it hits, the next time you defend with a reaction card, it gets -1. Or below cast is if it hits next time you defend with a non-attack, it gets -1. And then finally, Scale Peelers for equipment. So basically, if you run like a Spider's Bite and an Below cast, and you you dagger, and then they don't block. That means if they block with attack action or non-attack action cards, both of those will get -1 the first time they're defended with. So it gives you a toolbox of daggers to use depending on who you're playing against, and it allows you to bring daggers back from cards like Flick Knives and Concealed Blade, and all of these cards allow you to like destroy a dagger on hit and then bring a dagger back. It's just really, really cool. Redback Shroud is such an interesting legendary for this set. For anyone that's aware, there is no way to generate silver in this set, and there's not going to be because there's no silver token in the set. So because of that, there's literally no way you can generate silver. So they made a legendary that basically matches like the legs and the headpiece. Like it matches Mask of Perdition and Black Tech Whispers, where it has battle 1/1. It has an ability that destroys it, and then you can bring it back with 2 silver. But while Redback Shroud is in your graveyard at the start of your turn, you may destroy 2 silver you control. If you do, equip Redback Shroud. Attack reaction, destroy Redback Shroud. The next attack reaction card you play this turn has cost 1 less to play. So this is basically like a one-time tunic use in a way in the attack reaction phase, which in the assassin archetype, most of the time, that's the time when you're using your tunic, especially on like the spike with blood rot turns, at least in this assassin archetype in Yuziri, like you're going to be using it a lot with those. So it's really nice for that. It has the battle 1/1. Whether this is good or not, right now I still think tunic is better, but it also depends on what you value, right? Because if you can get this back twice, most of the time, I say you use your tunic like 4 or 5 times in a game. But if you can get this back twice and all of a sudden you're using it like 3 times and you're blocking with it twice, it might end up being really useful. It just depends on like what you value, block versus like consistent tunic resource. But overall, it's not as good as tunic, but it is a really interesting card. The fact that they made it, even though there's no way to generate silver, and just having a full suite of assassin armor is just cool as well. Then you have Infiltrate. This will be used by Arachne and Yuziri as staples consistently. Even in older Arachne, this will probably be a staple. When it hits a hero, banish the top card of their deck. You may play it until the end of your next turn. I had this happen to my buddy Morty today in stream. He hit me. He banished a Descendant Gust Wave and was able to play it, which was really, really funny. And it was able to just give you a little bit more go wide. It'd be really funny to play stuff like a Channel like Frigid for a turn or something like that, or play like a Channel Mount Heroic for one turn, like pitching a blue and then coming in with like Shakedown, right, for like 9 or something would be really funny. Just some really cool types of things you could do with this card that make it really good. Very solid staple for pretty much every assassin hero. Then you have Shakedown, which is Yuziri's specialization. If you've played or activated an attack reaction, this chain link, Shakedown has, when it hits a hero, choose red, yellow, or blue. They reveal their hand, banish a card of the chosen color. This card is really, really good. It's one of Yuziri's like most powerful cards, if not her most powerful card. Being able to take like the best red that a ninja has, or being able to take like a choice blue that a certain deck has where they might need the resources or starve the resources, like playing this into Azalea and maybe picking a blue, forcing her to have to, play off of me just for reds, would be really, really useful. So really powerful card, definitely like an automatic include into Yuziri, just really good. Then we have Spreading Plague. Spreading Plague is one of my favorite cards. So it's a majestic, cost 1 at yellow pitch, block 3. Create X Bloodrock Pox tokens under the defending hero's control, where X is the number of defending cards this chain link. I think you could use this in Yuziri and use this in Arachne, and I actually think this would be even better in Arachne Blitz. If you arsenal this card, and then let's say you play like a Nimblism into Eradicate for 7, and then they block it out with 2 cards or even 3 cards from hand, and then you play Spreading Plague, giving them 3 Bloodrot Pox tokens, like, it'd be really, really cool, and it counts for equipment as well because they're also defending cards. So, like, if they block with 2 cards from hand, 1 card from equipment on a 7-power Eradicate, you play this, all of a sudden you're dealing 6 damage to them anyway. It's just really cool design space, and it before, like, one of Assassin's issues was getting over the top because people could just block them out late game, like when they're trying to push damage, and this could help you like close out a game, right? If you play like a Surgical Extraction buffed for like 6 or 7, do the cut to the chase, and then you play a Spreading Plague with it, it would do really, really well. So super excited about that card, really like it. Then we have like a couple of these other cards. I won't have to bring them all up. We have Backstab, which comes in a cycle, 3 at red, 2 at yellow, 1 at blue, blocks 3, has stealth. Defense reactions can't be played to Backstab's Chain Link. This is really nice if you're trying to, kind of push damage a little bit. Maybe it's a hero that really thrives off defense reactions. Being able to play this and then spike with Blood Rot it maybe for 6 is really nice. And it's just a really solid stealth card that you're probably going to run at red and blue, if not just red, in order to cycle with Yuziri's ability. In Arachne Blitz, this will be a staple, right, at red and blue. But in Old Arachne, I don't think you'll run it as much. So there's that. There's Sneak Attack. If you played or activated an attack reaction, this Chain Link Sneak Attack has +4. So if you play this off of Yuziri's ability, you play a card like Backstab, then you use Yuziri ability and play Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack will come in for 7, which is really nice at red. And even at blue, it still comes in for 5, which isn't great, but it's not too bad. It is a 2 block, though, so you'll probably just run this at red if anywhere. It doesn't have an on hit, so it'll actually be interesting to see how much this card's played, just because it doesn't block 3, which I think is really interesting. They basically made a 2 for 7, block 2. But I kind of get it because it is above rate technically from a damage aspect. But definitely something to look at red, I think, for the assassin class, especially specifically Yuziri. That's pretty much the only color that this is going to be useful at. Then next you have Spike with Blood Rot. Spike with Blood Rot is target attack action card gain with stealth, gains +3. When it hits a hero, create a Blood Rot Pox token under their control. It costs 1 to play, blocks 3. You also have Spike with Frailty and Spike with Inertia. All of these are block 3 block 3, pump 3 buffs. The difference is this one creates a Blood Rot Pox token, this one creates a Frailty token, and this one creates an Inertia token. This is definitely going to be like an automatic include in Arachne Blitz. And I definitely also think you'll see it in Yuziri. You might not see it in like Arachne adult version, but I definitely think it's really useful in Arachne Blitz specifically because you're going to be able to play those stealths for 3 go again, and they might let it hit. Let's say you have 2 cards in hand with Tunic Trigger up. You play like a stealth card out for 3. They let it hit because it's not going to banish a card, and they're trying to wait and see what you have in your second card. Then you play this like a Spike with Blood Rot, making your attack for 6 off Tunic Trigger, and you also create a Blood Rot Pox token. So you're basically attacking for 8. It's really, really useful for that. Really like the cycle and really like the artwork as well. It's really cool. Then we have Infect, which creates a Blood Rot Pox token under their hero's control. When it hits, it comes in at 3 at red and 1 at blue. I definitely think the red's useful. I probably wouldn't run this in any other color, but at red, it's really good in Arachne and Yuziri. Arachne Blitz version might run this at blue just because of threatening a Blood Rot Pox token. Like you play this for 1 go again. If you don't block the 1 power, which no one really wants to block, I'm also going to create a Blood Rot Pox token and basically threaten 2 more additional damage. So, you have to respect it. Then you have Isolate. I think in Yuziri, this is a 9 of. I would run this at a 9 of because what this allows you to do is play Isolate, force them to only be able to block with 1 card, and then Yuziri in a 6 power attack. And unless they have a defense reaction in hand and they play it like in the middle of your Yuziri reaction, once Isolate leaves the chain technically, then it's basically guaranteeing your 6 power to hit if they don't have a defense reaction in hand. So definitely would run a 9 of, my personal opinion, a 9 of these in Yuziri. I also would run these at red in Arachne Blitz. Maybe even blue, just because they block with 1 card at 3 if they're at 1 life, and you could pump it with like a spike. But definitely at red for sure. I think it's very useful. Then we have Malign, which damage that would be dealt by Malign can't be prevented. So like Crown Seats doesn't work on this card. Other prevention effects don't work on this card. Definitely a solid staple at red for both Yuziri, for Arachne Blitz. Really, really useful. So definitely would run both of those. And then we have Prowl, which is stealth. The next attack action with stealth, you play this combat chain gains +1. This is perfect for Arachne Blitz. You play this for 3 go again, and then you play another stealth for 4. So you play this for 3 and then play an Isolate for 4 dominate, right? A way to close out a game potentially. Or, any of those type of cards would be really, really nice for that. So I definitely think specifically Arachne Blitz is who's going to utilize this the best at red. Definitely think it's an auto include in that list, but that's probably like the main one it's for. And then you have Sedate, which is when it hits a hero, create an inertia token under their control. So it's the same as Infect, but it's Sedate. You're going to run this at red in Yuziri for just the stealth, ratios, stealth card ratios. And then in Arachne Blitz, you'll probably end up running this at red and blue, just to have, again, consistent on-hit triggers with your go against stealth cards for Arachne Blitz. So definitely would keep an eye on that. And then you have Wither, which again is the same as Sedate and Infect, but for Withering tokens, you'll probably play this at red in Yuziri and Arachne Blitz, but I probably wouldn't play it in any other ones. Withering isn't as useful as it is against the whole entire field. Like, it's good against Dory, it's good against Katsu. So if you have a lot of like weapon-based heroes, I think it would be good for that. But other than that, if you don't have a lot of weapon-based heroes in your meta, then it might not be something you play as consistently. And then finally, Razor's Edge. This is really cool. It's basically a 0-for-3 buff on stealth cards. So if you have like a heavy stealth build Arachne Blitz list, this definitely could be something you put in at red. But I probably wouldn't put it in any other list just for consistency's sake. But it is a really cool card, and definitely one that you could look at using. And then we're going to go to the Assassin. I want to look at some of the hybrid cards. So Assassin Ninja, we talked about these in the Ninja. Flick Knives is definitely an upgrade to like Goliath Gauntlet or Iron Rock Gauntlet if you want to use it. I definitely would run it because it's just, if anything, it's an Iron Rock Gauntlet with an extra buff potential. It's, and then Goliath Gauntlet, I think it has more utility than Goliath Gauntlet. So definitely would run this. This kind of completes the Assassin equipment set with Redback Shroud. So that's really cool. I'm sorry, my dog Zeus, he's excited. But yeah, definitely something I would think about running as you're moving forward. It's just an automatic upgrade. And if you include cards like Conceal Blade and Hurl and other cards like that, which we'll talk about here in a second, so like cards like this, it works really well with these cards. So basically your idea, we'll go ahead and talk about right now, is you include Flick Knives in your list, which reads once per turn attack reaction, doesn't cost anything to do. Target dagger you control that isn't on the active chain link deals 1 damage to target hero. If damage is dealt this way, the dagger is hit. Destroy the dagger. Sorry, my dog Zeus wanted to get out. If damage is dealt this way, the dagger is hit. Destroy the dagger. So basically, you're down a dagger. But then what you do is you use cards like Hurl and cards like Conceal Blade to bring daggers back. And when you bring daggers back, you have to have them in your sideboard, so keep that in mind. So the idea is you have 2 daggers in the main board, and then like especially in Blitz, you'll probably have 2 to 3 daggers in the sideboard. So you'll basically be able to deal damage unless it's prevented through Crown Seeds with Flick Knives, and then you bring them back. When you play stuff like Hurl, you can pay 1. When this attacks, target a dagger you control deals 1 damage to target hero. If that damage is dealt this way, the dagger is hit. Destroy the dagger. So it basically has the same thing as Flick Knives. And then what you do is you use the card currently Conceal Blade in order, when this hits, equip a dagger from your inventory. So it gives a card +1, and then you can bring a dagger back from your inventory. This isn't as crazy of a archetype until they bring in more cards like Conceal Blade that can bring daggers back. But currently right now, I'm pretty sure Conceal Blade is the only card in the set that brings daggers back. I'm almost positive on that. So until they change that, it's not going to be as crazy. However, it is really nice to be able to, now if you're running this stuff like Flick Knives and Hurl and Conceal Blade, you're basically telling your opponent, unless they're Oldheim with Crown Seeds, you cannot go to 1, 2, or 3 against me, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play these cards. I'm going to attack react with my daggers, and if you can't damage prevent, I'm going to kill you. So like that's basically what you're saying. Once they get to 2 life, if they don't have any way to prevent damage, they just die, which is really good for closing out games. So really good for that. Shift between Perspectives and Blade Cuff are limited cards. Stab Wound, I definitely think is going to be a blue that should be included in pretty much every assassin list. It's just too good. Otherwise, it threatens a little bit more damage on your blues. Maybe in a traditional classic constructed Arachne, you might not run it just because it doesn't have the banish probability, but it's a really solid card to run in general. And then you have Conceal Blade. Obviously, we just talked about it. It brings your daggers back. It's basically like a block 3 lunging press that brings a dagger back. That's the best way to look at it. Then you have Knives Out, which give your daggers gain +1 this turn. These cards up here are also really good in Benji, but I know that's a ninja thing. We'll talk about that later. And then you have cards like Bleed Out. Bleed Out's really cool. Basically, if you have this with a blue, it comes in for 1 cost, so you can play this off of blue because you'll dagger for 1. You're spending 2 resources, and then spend your last resource on your blue to dagger for 4. If you have a 3-card hand with 2 blues, this comes in for free after daggering. So at red, this might be useful, but it is a 2-block, and I think right now the way Arachne and Yuziri are going to be most playable is when they have a lot of 3 blocks and they can kind of outvalue you over time. So having 2 blocks in the list, it has to be a really impactful card in order to be a 2-block in your list. So I don't know if it makes the cut, but it is a good card. Overall, it gives good value. So definitely something you could look at using. And then you have Hurl, which is basically a 0 for 3 go again, 2-block that has the ability of Flick Knives. Something I think will be used in Arachne Blitz. I think, honestly, it could be used in Yuziri again, but the problem with this card in Yuziri is you can't Yuziri attack react with it because it doesn't have stealth. It's basically a 0 for 3 go again, so that isn't as useful. And then your thought process is, well, I could run it at blue and then pay 1 when they're at 1 health to kill, but then you have a block 2 blue, which kind of sucks. I think, again, this is more of a Benji card personally. I think like most all of these cards, which is funny, is like a Benji card or a way to play Benji. Pretty much, it's so funny. All of the Assassin Ninja cards are more suited for Benji than they are for Assassin. They're nice tech to have with Assassin, but most of them are Benji cards, in my opinion. So that's just something to look at. Then we have Assassin Ranger, which we have my spoiler Mask of Melissa's Manifestations, more of a limited card. So is Toxic Tips personally, or this is more of a Riptide card, more so than the actual Assassin card. Out of all the codexes, I think Codex of Frailty is the best one. Codex of Blood Rot is kind of like the worst one. Each hero puts a card from their hand face down in their arsenal. Create a Ponder token under your control and a Blood Rot Pox token under your opponent's control. This is more for Riptide than anything. It's not really meant for Assassin use, in my opinion, or isn't used the best in Assassin. It can be used for Yuziri to get like Death Touches down arsenal, but even then, like I wouldn't force it. Codex of Inertia is the next best one. Each hero puts a card from their deck face down into their arsenal. Each hero that does this discards a card. Create a Ponder token under your opponent's control. Create inertia control. Create a Ponder token under your control and inertia token under your opponent's control. This one's pretty good. You're basically top decking, but it's more, again, I think it's more suited for Riptide than anything. Both of those are where you kind of get the most value is Codex of Frailty, which is where also Ranger gets the most value. Each hero puts an attack action card from their graveyard face down in their arsenal. So you basically can go get a Death Touch and put it face down in your arsenal, make your opponent discard a card, give them a Frailty token, and then play Death Touch out, and then you have a Ponder token anyway, so you can have an arsenal no matter what. This is probably the most powerful of all the codexes, just in a nutshell as a whole, but especially for Assassin. Then you have Death Touch. I think you run these at red in Yuziri. Definitely run these at red. Maybe run these at yellow. I wouldn't run them at blue. I don't think the value is quite there for blue because it is a block 2. But these mainly are going to be used as Yuziri. I don't see them used anywhere else. Maybe Riptide, but that's Ranger. I don't see Arachne using these personally in Blitz or in CC. Just having to get it down Arsenal, and it's a 2-block. Like, you have to go through so many hoops to get this in your arsenal to be able to use it. And Arachne doesn't have a lot of go-in anyway, so you're basically going to be playing this by itself, which isn't bad, but it's also not good. However, this is really good against Ninja. If you have a lot of Ninja in your area post-Outsiders release, like with Katsu, this can really hurt Katsu because attacking for 6 and then giving Katsu a Frailty token, turning off his Kadachis, is very, very powerful. So keep that in mind, though, when you're playing it. Then we have Toxicity. These are really cool cards, and I want to see how this design space like continues with them. I don't really see them much used in Assassin right now. Like, personally, I think they're better useful in Ranger, where like you're more likely to force an on hit than you are with Assassin. Because in order to play this in Yuziri, you basically need a 3-card hand, and it's basically going to the opponent's going to block 6 anyway, so they don't take extra damage. It's a block 2, which isn't as useful either. But in Ranger, where you can force dominate with Azalea or go wide with even Lexi, I could see this being a little bit more useful. And maybe being procced a little bit more. But right now, again, if it was a block 3, it'd probably be more playable, even when you don't get off all the time. But at block 2, it's a little bit hard to use, in my opinion. Then you have Vigilant Touch, which basically works the same way as Death Touch. I think it can be useful in Riptide more than any other hero, just because he can put stuff down in his arsenal so easy. But in Yuziri and Arachne, I think this is going to be really hard to justify. It's a 2-block non-go again. On Yuziri, you're going to have to get an arsenal and you're going to have to play it out. And it only comes in for 4 at red. If this came in for like 5 at red, 4 at yellow, and 3 at blue, I actually think it might be a little bit more useful in Yuziri. But at 4, it's just too easy to block out. And all the hoops you have to jump through just to get it blocked out, not as useful. And then finally, Assassin, Ranger, Defense, Traps. These aren't really going to be used that much in Yuziri, I don't think, personally. You might use a couple, but I doubt it. If you have a super defensive Yuziri or Assassin build, you might end up running these just to kind of trip up your opponent, no pun intended, a little bit. But these, again, I think are more based for Riptide's natural play style than Assassin. It's not that these cards are bad for Assassin, it's just the play style favors more towards Riptide's play style. Anything that requires you to get it down in Arsenal, like in order to be played, is more suited for Riptide, except for Death Touch. I think Death Touch is really playable so far. So yeah, that's the Assassin class. That's kind of where my head's at. Most of the cards are pretty standard. Like overall, I don't think Adult Arachne got that much better. Like Adult Arachne basically got, like, if we're being honest here, Adult Arachne basically only got, like, the only card that they got that's even remotely useful is Spreading Plague and Infiltrate. That's like the 2 main cards they got. They got access to more daggers to have a little bit more like diversified game plan, and then obviously Flick Knives and Redback Shroud. That's basically what they got. That's about it. Because in Adult Arachne, you're not gonna run this hybrid stealth contract. You're probably gonna run like one or the other. And right now, contract's still better. The power level's better. So there's that. Most of these are suited for Blitz Arachne, and Blitz Arachne I think is going to be really good. Yuziri is going to be really interesting to see. Personally, I think she's a little bit, until someone breaks her and figures out a way to make her hyper efficient, I think she's pretty linear right now. And I think she's going to have some really bad matchups in the decks that just know her deck and are able to play around her stuff pretty easily or easier. So that's going to be really interesting to watch as time goes on. But I hope she is good because she's really fun. But yeah. Let me know what you think of the Assassin class. I think it's pretty straightforward compared to the other classes, honestly. Most of the cards kind of all do the same thing. And that's not a negative thing. It's just like it's an easier class to understand, in my opinion. The intricacy of this class is going to be like what generics can you sneak in order to make it a little bit more hard to read and a little bit more satisfying to play. But yeah, overall, super enjoying it, especially Arachne. I've been really liking playing him a lot. Both in Blitz and in CC. But yeah, if you like this type of content, leave a like, comment, subscribe. If not, it's totally fine. Have a good rest of y'all's week, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.